Sit on the Armed Services Committee. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Congressman Turner, where do you see Ukraine right now, and what Congress could or should be doing differently?
Well, Congress has had to pull this administration forward. They were slow and reluctant to provide the lethal aid that was necessary, even predicting an early fall of Kyiv and Ukraine. Now the administration, though, I think is stepping up to the plate and ensuring that there is timely delivery of weapons. And this new package that the president is talking about, I think, that both aids our eastern NATO allies and Ukraine itself will likely have strong bipartisan support, because people know that we're at a critical juncture. Ukraine at this point has been able to rebuff some of the advances that Russia has made. We're sharing finally with them the type of intelligence that gives them an ability to counter Russians' forward push. And then, of course, now we're looking at giving them more heavy artillery as they are continuing their fight with the Russian focus on Donbass. So I think this is a critical time, and I think Congress is going to be there to support.
You know, Speaker Pelosi obviously made the trip over to meet with President Zelensky over the weekend. Here she is talking about what came out of that and at the end of the trip.
I accept this on behalf of the congressional Democrats. It was a surprise, but I think it was a reflection of his appreciation for what the Congress has brought to the table.
That was an award given to the delegation for coming over to Kyiv. Congressman Moulton, should that have been a bipartisan delegation?
Look, I would have liked to see it be bipartisan. I understand that Pelosi invited some Republicans who refused to come. But like Congressman Turner just said, this is a bipartisan effort in Congress, a bipartisan effort to support the administration on supporting the Ukrainians and really working to not just hold off the Russians, but crush them, to defeat them in Ukraine. And I think you're going to continue to see that bipartisan effort going forward. We just had a vote last week in the Congress on the Ukraine Lend-Lease Act, bringing back a tactic that we used way back in World War II. It was 417 to 10. Only 10 extremist Republicans voted against the bill. The rest, 417 bipartisan Republicans and Democrats, all standing up to support Ukraine. I think that will continue.
Yeah, I don't want to discount the bipartisanship that's happening up on Capitol Hill, but Congressman Turner, were you invited to that trip?
No, and I'm the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, and I don't know if any Republicans that were invited, but this is a pattern. Pelosi travels frequently with total Democrat delegations. She's done that recently to NATO. This is a pattern. It could be very surprising if we actually find some Republicans that said no, but they certainly didn't do any effort to reach out to those who actually work in national security. I certainly wasn't.
Okay, let me play this soundbite, and this is bipartisan, about the concerns about nuclear weapons. Take a listen.
Ironically, the more success that the Ukrainians have, the greater the risk that Putin will do something because he's losing and has to save face at home. And so the potential of a chemical, biological, or tactical nuclear weapon may grow as a result of that.
Prior to World War II, there were moments nobody ever wanted to get involved and eventually came to realize they had to. I hope we don't get to that point here, but we should be ready if we do.
Congressman Moulton, what's your level of concern about the use of tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine?
Well, I'll tell you that it's real. It's literally written into Russian doctrine that they will use tactical nuclear weapons. They even have this sort of crazy policy of escalating to de-escalate, which doesn't work, and it runs head-on into our policy, which is that if you use nuclear weapons, you can expect a nuclear response. So the danger is real, and if nuclear weapons are used by the Russians, the danger of escalating into a full-out nuclear war is real as well. Now, the balance that we have to strike, of course, is not letting their threats intimidate us. That's why when Congressman Turner and I go into intelligence briefings, we're looking very closely at what the Russians are actually doing vis-a-vis potential use of nuclear weapons, because there's no question that Putin is trying to intimidate the West with these threats. But we do have to take them seriously, and that's, of course, the balance that we're working to strike.
Congressman Turner, is there a creep here? Is there sort of more lawmakers ready to do more, even if it involves somehow U.S. action? Democratic Senator Chris Coons saying if push came to shove and the U.S. had to get involved, we would. Where is Capitol Hill on that on both sides?
Well, I think one of the clear lines is that if Russia should attack one of our NATO allies under Article 5 of the NATO Washington Treaty, we would respond. I think one danger here that we have is that the administration has sort of been just ignoring these very strong statements of possible nuclear exchange. Lavrov himself, the foreign minister, openly speaking these words of the threat of nuclear war. I think the administration needs to make it clear that this would be at Russia's peril. This is a line that I mean, already, if you look at what they've done in Mariupol, he's willing to kill innocent civilians. He's willing to destroy cities. It's a very short step to a nuclear exchange. I think this administration needs to make it clear that will not be tolerated, and that NATO will not tolerate it. The United States will not. The EU will not. That clearly there needs to be a very strong response to put that genie back in the bottle so Putin doesn't even consider it.
All right, I only have 10 seconds left for each of you, if you could. But if they wrap this in the Senate with a Ukraine funding and a COVID funding, you guys okay with that, Congressman Moulton?
Look, I'm going to support it because it's the right thing to do for Ukraine. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of politics involved, and there will be domestic debates here at home about other policies and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we've got to realize we're at war. And we're not just at war to support the Ukrainians. We're fundamentally at war, although it's somewhat through a proxy, with Russia, and it's important that we win.
Congressman Turner?
Well, this administration always tries to screw up bipartisan inertia, and here this would be another example of it. The whole fact that this administration is continuing to have an open border policy, looking at rescinding the COVID policies that the Trump administration put in place for the border, really puts at risk any bipartisan aspect of this. And I certainly hope that they keep them separate, because our policies in viewing them are certainly separate.
Okay, well, we like these bipartisan interviews. Congressman Moulton, Congressman